I'm Standing on a Million Lives is back for its second season, and I'm here to give my first impressions on the first 2 episodes of the series, so let's jump into it. For those unaware of I'm Standing on a Million Lives, it essentially follows a student named Yatsuya, and at some point he ends up getting kind of dragged up into this almost like an isekai game situation where he, along with several other of his classmates, end up getting pulled into this other world, assigned a class by some kind of, seems like a higher being, and they are assigned a quest that they end up having to complete within a certain amount of time in order to not die. It doesn't really quite give a clear picture of exactly what is at stake when they are in this other world. All they know is that whenever they complete a quest, they can ask a question of this certain being, and then they'll be sent back to their, current world in order to wait for the next time they'll be summoned back to do another quest. And the weird kind of goofy gimmick that they have in this particular world is, like I said, assigned a class. And unfortunately for Yatsuya, he's always given like some really crappy classes. There's this part of this little kind of spinning wheel that this being kind of spins, and it'll assign a class, and they're all kind of like, even sized pie parts for, wizard and fighter and stuff. But then there's this little sliver of this like 0.5% chance that they'll get like this really crappy class that really has no benefit to it. So early on he gets like a farming class, later on he gets a cooking class, and this seems to continue on into the second season. But the oddity that comes with the end of the first season, this is kind of soft spoilers for those that have not seen the series, is that eventually he finds out the reason for why they're being pulled to this other world. And there's something at stake for them, for these students that are being pulled over this other world. And they're also hinting at the idea that this isn't like another world that's like a video game. There's actually lives that they're affecting in this other world. And this comes to a huge blow to Yatsuya, who almost kind of uses the lives of those on this other world in order to succeed. And this weighs heavy on him. But even still, there's always kind of this weird dark side to Yatsuya that they're kind of slowly unraveling as we finish the first season and as we got into the second season. And as we get into the second season, we're pretty much opening up where we left off with the first season. Yatsuya had essentially gone out and recruited the next member that they would end up bringing into this other world, and that is Tori. And Tori, we find out right off the bat, he's essentially living with his mother and his brother, and this really nasty guy keeps showing up and essentially roughing them up for money. And they basically, said you can get rid of your debt if you go and kill this person. And that was what Yatsuya basically stopped in the first season. And as they're all transported to this other world again, Tori is assigned the class of spearmen. And they're assigned the quest to go to this island and essentially acquire this cow. And when they get there, they end up finding out that it's overrun by orcs, and the orcs are basically eating the humans. And they're trying to kind of stop the orcs from eating the humans by sacrificing their cows, and they're running out. So they're kind of desperate to get rid of these orcs. But as usually with this series, it's not an easy task. They're going to actually have to employ a lot of mercenaries and get the skills they need in order to overcome these orcs. So my thoughts so far on the series, it's kind of got the same issues as the first season did, where it's not bad animation, it's not bad character designs or anything, but it is a little bit lazy looking. The wonky character designs and everything is still kind of present with the series. But even then, I'm still kind of interested in seeing where this story and this world ends up going, as they've already kind of established the ideas that during the time they're gone, there's actually a great pace in which this other world is advancing. And so when they get there, they end up finding out that 12 years has passed, even though it was a short period of time since the last time they went to this other world. And you see how people they knew from the previous timeline have kind of aged or gone on with their lives after these heroes have left their world. It still technically has the trappings that Yatsuya is still dealing with the fact that he's given really crappy classes, but I always find it kind of interesting to see how he utilized those classes to kind of overcome things. That was the interesting thing with the first season. He gets the cooking class, so what does he do in order to fight something? Well, he uses this cooking class in order to find to be able to know where the internal organs are of the enemies he's fighting, and use that to his advantage to hit critical points. And that's the same with him getting a blacksmithing class. He ends up using it in order to craft weapons that all of them can use, which has always been kind of the restraint they've always been facing, is this lack of tools and the inability to use whatever kind of weapon they want. It's only the weapon their class allows. So this is, of course, going to give them a little bit of added benefit. Unfortunately, the only thing that's really still bogging me down with the series is I don't get Yatsuya. I've never understood Yatsuya as a character. Now, I'm always for a series that will do something interesting, if even dark, with a character, but they've never really had the time to really sit down and explain to me why Yatsuya is the way he is. I think with the first season, what I was getting frustrated with was that he always kind of made it out like he hates mankind and he would love to just get rid of everybody. And the only insights we get are these little flashbacks of him and his friends putting something next to a tree and that tree getting turned down. And it's like, okay, grow up. That's about all I can feel for him. I don't really understand how he thinks the way he does. And as it gets in the second season, he's starting to talk about things like eugenics and the idea that some people are more important than other people, that this person is expendable and this person is not. And like I said, I do like the idea of getting into an interesting look into the mind of somebody that's not really normal. It's still struggling for me. Even still then, like I said, I am curious to see what they end up doing with this character. If they'll manage to give it some kind of interesting narrative. That's all I really ask for, is just to kind of do something interesting with what he's doing. Yes, a normal person would see this as possibly cruel. But yes, there is logic in what he's saying, but it's still not correct. But unfortunately, the question does come, do you create a interesting narrative from that? Or do you just use it to make, okay, he's just evil, bad main character, he likes to ride the gray area, and nothing really interesting comes of it. That's really the key point there. So I struggled with him at the end of the first season. I'm struggling with him right now with the beginning of this season. I hope they do something interesting with it. I'm still sticking with it because I'm curious if they'll do something interesting with it. But as it stands now, decent opening for this season. Curious where it goes from here. I'm mixed on the new addition to their party. I think he kind of adds a little bit of an extra push against Yatsuya, so that's fine with me, honestly. But they've had some really cool moments already, like I said, with the time jump and how it affects the people that they knew in the first season. So I'm really curious to see where it goes from here. But that's my thoughts on I'm Standing on a Million Lives Season 2 so far. I hope you guys enjoyed my impressions. If you did, leave a like down below. Comment, let me know what you thought of the series so far. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I thank you all for watching, and y'all take care.